Did you know that 9 of 10 of our dream business startups will end in failure? I mean, in the global media, we hear uber rich Cinderella stories of like the founder of Google, Facebook with Mark Zuckerberg, or even Elon Musk with Tesla. However, today is not the tale of the 10% who made a lot of money. I'm James, and here's my startup story.
The Ensemble Beverage Company is born, makers of heritage Southern juices.
Getting it to the bottle was just learning, a couple of technical things like how to heat, how to sterilize solutions. After I did my first batch, I went to the university, to Auburn, and talked to the food science folks, and they kind of helped me along. They were kind of mentors for a couple of years.
Now here we're looking at your financing.
Though James and Robert can only make their product in 7-gallon containers, it at least gives them something to sell.
We took orders here, we took orders at my church. They bought 50 cases for a church picnic. My school, I think it was about 50 cases.
They even get a few stores in the Montgomery, Alabama area to try their product.
Well, I like the juice. I like the fact that they leave some of the pulp in the juice, so it gives it a good homemade flavor, so it's really good.
To get into the big time, what James and Robert really need is to make more product, and for that, they need a co-packer. That's a company willing to make and bottle the juices at their facility.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back. And today we've switched roles, and I have the pleasure of interviewing Dr. James Harris, PhD.
PhD, and you forgot
ESPN.
PhD, ESPN.
How are you today?
BBC sometimes.
How are you, sir?
Man, I am doing wonderfully. The role has reversed, no stress on me. So I just kind of sit here and answer questions. I mean, what can be better?
Traditionally, that is the hot seat.
That is the hot seat. Oh yeah. Because I can say something wrong.
It was part of your MBA.
Yes.
What support did you get to begin?
Well, it started out. I started out with, you mean the business support or the school? The business support. Oh man, it happened at a weird time because things always happen bad when you're going to do something good. I can almost depend on it. I tell you what. I was like, I'm going to start this business. I'm going to start a business, and this business happened when 9/11 happened.
Oh wow.
Now, believe it or not, and not as much marketed as 9/11, but there had been some kind of terrorist type of threats that happened just before that happened, and one of them was the contamination of products. And that didn't get a lot of traction in the news, but that was a real thing. And all of a sudden, there was layoffs within a lot of the major companies that I was a part of. That one happened right after 9/11. And so I found myself halfway through an MBA program and then laid off by the company I worked for.
From there, you moved to...
I didn't move.
Well, no, you didn't move, but the business moved.
The business moved from a nice corporate office to my kitchen. It moved from a corporate office to the kitchen. First, you gotta, that's the one thing about, graduate education, I gotta say. It's so theoretical until you get to actually the product itself. Then the question is, the thing that came out with a lot of my colleagues, and, I have a nice 47-page business plan, and the first banker, National Bank of Tuskegee, said, can I have some of your lemonade? And I thought, don't. I did all of this stuff and never made a bottle of it. Never made a bottle. I had a full business plan. I'm going to be rich. Never made a bottle. And so I realized that we had to go to the kitchen and make a bottle. And then that's when the real education started. That's when the real work started. And so I went back to the university, and the dean said, hey, my wife works over in nutrition. I'm down in food sciences. Why don't you go and see what she has to say? She had a class So I actually went to class and just started going to class. I just started going to nutrition. I went to pasteurizing, and I went 2 or 3 times and actually learned a lot about how to pasteurize a product. And at the time, I went to Google, then looked on pasteurization, and then learned that all natural was not going to happen if I wanted the bottles to be on the shelf. Networking, that was it. And going to school for free.
And going to school.
I mean, taking extra classes because I just needed to know how to produce lemonade, and which was science. And I don't even think I made a C. I made a C back in high school in chemistry. So all of a sudden now, I'm learning about thickeners. I'm learning about temperature pasteurization. I'm learning about why people don't use just regular sugar, why we use fructose, because it distributes in the bottle better. So I learned these things. Flash pasteurizing was the big one, because if you keep things at a high temperature, all the flavor of things that you buy, the expensive flavors, just go out of the bottle and you have water. So all of a sudden I'm learning about how to pasteurize the juice.
What was the time frame from your first meeting at the bank to this point?
Oh, it might have been nine months, almost a year,
Okay.
because at that point we had a business plan, and that's what I learned about business people. I knew the theory of it, of how to do it from start to finish, but actually how to make a bottle of lemonade took almost a year.
Wow.
Took almost a year. Another competency, by the way.
You got your product?
Got my product, got a nice label. It is, learned about labeling. I learned about, paper labels versus coated labels, because when you drop drinks down in ice, my first $4,000 spent on paper labels, total waste. Then I had to go back and get a filmed label that wrapped all the way around that would not move if you dropped it in ice. Those type of things. I went from there was the glass that I used had a small. It was the old fashioned old Fanta Coke bottles that I wanted to use, but I couldn't find fillers that would use those anymore because those were obsolete. So I had to go to a more traditional bottle.
How did you get your funding for this? Because now we're into costs.
Now we're
$4,000 in labels.
Yeah.
You're an unemployed student.
Yes, unemployed student trying to finish my MBA school.
How did you fund this?
I started off with believe it or not, the school, the university, and I don't mean university grant programs like we see today. Literally, it was my dean, my supply chain manager, professor that went to Harvard. I drove a motorcycle, and he thought maybe you didn't get the loan because you didn't have a car, so he fronted me his old car, just gave it to me. He was like, "This is my investment. When you make $1 million, I want this much money back." And I wrote it out and everything. And I had about 6 teachers, some of my colleagues, some of my classmates, because I was in a corporate program, and they came out with 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 a piece. So it was not your traditional way of doing it. One of my colleagues, that was a finance guy, taught me about doing bonds, which I learned later that totally wasn't legal, was it? Anyway, because the theory behind bonds was correct, but there's some SEC stuff that we didn't talk about in class, and and I didn't know how to do it. We didn't even know how to do it. So we would just make these written bond contracts and maturity after 3 years, and we wrote it all out. But it was, now that I look back at it, now that I know more about finance, I was like, oh my God, that was so not legitimate.
You made the local news.
Yeah, we made the local news because we were after the election, he made us kind of like declaration, state declaration that we were the official drink of Alabama.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it was just, and we were at this point just literally everywhere, but still making product. And this was before any machines. We bought one pasteurizer. I mean, we heated, didn't buy a pasteurizer. We actually heated on the stove until we got to the temperature, and then poured it in the fillers, and then we would fill the bottles, wrap them, and put them in the and put them in boxes.
Who was we?
Well, more legal stuff, because my kids, which by the way they were like 4, 11, 4 and 11 at the time, and I had a baby. He couldn't help, but he was in a cradle, still in the kitchen, which was, I mean, also child labor laws we probably were broken at the time, but they were just kids helping me fill bottles, hot bottles, lower than boiling, but hot bottles, putting labels on things, and they were my employees.
These guys have got a natural warmth about them, and it came through with their product. It wasn't for money, because it probably cost us to run it, to tell you the truth. It was because they brought about a feeling of wanting to help them.
The company agrees to manufacture the line of juices at an undisclosed charge per case. Though it costs James and Robert money, it's worth it. In one night, Whitfield Foods can make 6 months of Southern Heritage juices, about 10,000 cases, creating a potential revenue of $200,000.
It was amazing. And actually, when that first bottle came off that line, it was almost like having a baby. Our dream just actually turned into a reality and was in a bottle. I mean, we were just so happy.
In the first year, the company makes just $50,000, and it all goes back into the business. None of it can go to paying back the $138,000 debt. Things at James's house are tense, and money is beyond tight.
I was kind of like, James, you need to rethink this. I need you to go get a job. Corporate America waits for you. And James, he still was, no, Tiny, it's, 3 to 5 years before we make a profit. And and then I was like, I don't know if I can wait 3 to 5 years like this.
So, the business was expanding.
The business was expanding.
You were in debt.
Lots of debt.
And enter corporate.
Yes.
What happened?
Startup cost. That's where it started. I worried so much about being a business startup that when we got started, I thought life would be good. We didn't talk about what happens after a company starts up, but that you actually need more money every time you develop, you grow. So I'm in Walmart, I'm in Albertsons, I'm in H.E. Butt, and I'm in a few things called CVS drugs, and now so I have over about 120 accounts that we deliver, that they deliver. They come and do a pickup from us, and then they go out to the stores. But we don't have, after we put it on the truck, then we have little to no visibility. We use a distributor. We had a distributor in Texas that was supposed to watch the market, watch our stores, but it's a tough thing to do. I didn't see the small print. So while these big companies bought lots and lots of product, I did the big rookie mistake. They came when we were negotiating. They said, James, you need to be at this price to be competitive with the big guys.
What price was that?
It was to be in line. So basically, at the time, it was 99 cents per bottle, which was the hot price for everyone.
And what was your manufacturing cost per bottle?
My manufacturing cost was about 90 cents.
So your profit margin shrunk to about
9 cents.
9 cents.
and that's not even correct. So 90 cent needed to be the selling price. The average store wanted 90 cent. So I basically made zero to get in. But I thought it's okay because as we continue to grow, then I'll be able to raise the price. This is just my introductory price to get into the market, to get on the shelf. Once I get on the shelf, I'll go and fix pricing just a bit later. That was the big mistake, and that is the downfall.
Tell me about the downfall.
The downfall comes slowly. It comes like a knife, not a gun. The downfall starts with lots of product being pulled and everyone happy, everyone celebrating, but then the small print happens. The truth is that we didn't have the manpower to watch the shelves at the store. So we're selling at cost, and then the product is being shipped from our place, but what happens when it gets to the store? And that's when the big manufacturers have salespeople, they have representatives, they have direct store delivery people, all at that shelf taking the product. So it doesn't matter that it was purchased from me. It actually, when it got to the shelf, sometimes it may not even make it out of the back room. And most of the time, half of the time it didn't. About 40% of my product came back after about 6 months or 5 months with damages. They claims for out of dates, which is impossible because the product lasts for a year. But we can't argue that because that fight is happening at each store in states that I don't live in.
And you still had a staff of less than 10.
and it was 8, and that was at the biggest point we had 8, and they were just direct delivery guys in my county. Now the stores that we were located in I was in Alabama. That went as far as Texas and Arizona, and as far north as Chicago. So I nor our few people could drive to those places and keep up with not only the demand but the maintenance or the shelving of that product.
When a product gets returned, what's the financial cost to you?
They wanted 30% of, pretty much 30% as waste, 30% back as waste, and then they would replace it with new product. But for me, 30% is
30% that you didn't have.
That I didn't have.
Because you were already producing at cost.
Yes.
And then
it just happens.
Extra 30% of cost.
Then it comes back, but you don't see it. You just see. Well, you see it actually when your next purchase order comes in and it says minus this amount, and so it starts after a couple of stores, and then 10 stores, 20 stores, 40 stores, and then this happens, and so you are not. The long story short, I can't pay for more product to come into the store.
So a honeymoon period of about 6 months.
Exactly.
And then
celebration.
All of a sudden, costs start mounting.
Start to mount.
Profits are negligible, and where did you get the money?
There's no money at this point. If this is what we mean, this is what the story is about. This is after the honeymoon, after the celebration, after the pomp and circumstance, there's no more money to buy product. It's too late to increase the price. The initial investors were all looking from the outside and saying, hey, I bought this product in Walmart. I know you have money. Are you cheating me? Because you haven't paid me back yet.
And so this is the downward spiral.
And that's the spiral.
Where did this situation put your mindset?
Desperately, at one point, I wanted to kind of make it up to my wife, and I remember the life insurance policy we had, and so I really entertained how could I not suicide, but how could I die and with the in a way that the insurance policy would pay off, because we had about a $200,000 insurance policy, and so I tried to think of many ways that I could get that, or she could get that money, and then it would end the whole thing, and then I would not have to deal with bankruptcy and that type of thing. I didn't recover. Actually, it was I call it blind faith. Just one day, a friend called from that was here. Well, not here, but he was in Iraq, and he was just calling in for the happy holidays. And he caught me at the time that I was looking to kind of end it and try and find a nice way, the best way I could to end the situation. And he called and said, "Hey, this is not a good idea. Maybe we can, why don't you just come here and I'll be in Kuwait, and we'll be at a base and we'll have a Thanksgiving dinner and just come and maybe you can get away from the whole thing." So, long story short, I went to visit him, and he paid for it. It was very nice, and I stayed on an army base in a kind of a hostile environment. And but it was so relaxing just to get away from money and from owing people and those type of things. And then he mentioned, and I met the world of civilian military contracting. And long story short, that is where I found a way to live, and it was small, but it was a way to get away and to start over.
You had to give up on everything?
Absolutely.
You started over in another part of the world. Where did you...
In a combat area.
In a combat zone. What did you move into? What...
Anything, military, anything. So anything that the Army wanted. So mostly I dealt with food because I was really good at food. And at that point I was able to, I even exported a couple of times my own product, what I had left in the States. I exported it here and sold it at a local supermarket chain. And it was at a good price, at a regular price. It didn't cut into the 200,000. So the business, so I just got that amount out and divided it with me and my partner and a couple of friends that I could at least pay a little bit back to, which was not a drop in the bucket, but it made me feel better, and it was a start over for me.
Help from a guardian angel opened a new door for you.
Yes.
And you moved into procurement.
Yes, and this is where things change, because I am an epic failure in business. And one of the beautiful things about coming and starting over is that people appreciate the things other people on the outside maybe appreciate the things that I've done. So I I sold things back and forth, and then I took a job procuring and doing operations for businesses here in the area that sold to the Army. So I started at procurement. I became the operations director because I do supply chain, because I did supply chain with my own business. And one day it changed everything, not the money, but to be called the supply chain expert. And that's at that point I started to go from company to company, people that were interested in doing business with the U.S. Army, and I would go and do the inspections. So what is now known as ISO, it used to be called HACCP, And so I used to do the HACCP inspections to make sure that there were standard quality, there were quality standards, and they were able to sell products successfully to the Army. And I did that all over Kuwait, Lebanon, Jordan, and even Turkey in a couple places.
So quality inspections that you learned from back when that inspector walked into your kitchen.
Exactly.
And how to fit.
Exactly. Just almost from the same handbook. I mean, it changed a little bit with HACCP, changed a little bit with ISO, but that's what I end up doing. And to realize that all of this epic failure that I felt from back at home, and then I come here and I become a guru, or a guru at supply chain and quality.
So, have you survived this epic failure?
Not only have I survived, but I call myself successful. And it doesn't have, and we have to define success internally. Externally, there is too much desire. There is too much capitalism. There's too much media for us to know what makes us successful. And the good thing about this entire journey and even the darkest spot is that when you reach your darkest spot, you start, any little bit of light is light. And so the truth is, do I make as much as I did? Am I getting a TV show to come to my home? No, but I appreciate all the things that are around me now. I appreciate good friends. I appreciated those good friends, but I didn't know how good they were until I was in a situation like this. So the truth is, by my own right, I am a rock star.
Have you found through this journey, you went through the downward spiral, you bottomed out, you hit rock bottom, you've clawed your way back up, you've learned.
Yes.
Perhaps what might be considered another graduate degree from the School of Hard Knocks.
Yes, you can look at it that way.
Have you found any inner peace from this?
That's mostly what I found. You know, I make a joke about happiness, because happiness is like chocolate. You can have a bite of chocolate and it makes you feel this ecstasy. It's great. You feel promotion, media from the outside, people, your job salary increase says happiness. But I think the real success is finding between happiness and pain is where the real, I call it the soft spot, and that is peace. Being satisfied with your health, with what you have, with the people around you, and what you do. And for me, I do the things that I want. I eventually changed careers and got into teaching, which was my dream. But it just didn't, at the time, it just didn't pay a lot. And now it satisfies me. I teach dance. These things I didn't have time to do. I have good people around me, and I think that we create the heaven or hell that we are a part of. And so I found that I just took time out of my life now to create a heaven. And that's where I am.
When you describe it as epic failure, from your voice, from the way you use that word, you own it. You make no excuses. You make no. You don't try to fob off the responsibility of what happened. You own that failure.
Yes.
And if you're familiar with Jocko Willink, he wrote a book called Extreme Ownership. And this certainly applies as extreme ownership, which in a funny way changes that concept of failure to more of an extreme learning moment. The growth that you experienced as a person, as a man, as an individual, from the entire tail, the downward spiral, the bottoming out, climbing back up. If I loaned you my time machine,
Okay.
which costs $60,000 a shot to run,
Okay.
would you take out the debt and use it?
I think about it's a good question, and I do lie around thinking about something like that. What would I do over? I've got to say, I would not take the ride back, because everything that has happened turned out to be just as important as the things that I chose. Everything that has happened turned out to be just as important as the things that I've chose to do. So if I look at my education, same education from the bad things, same education, and appreciate it just in another place. I took, like I said, in my graduate school, I took one class in supply chain management. However, my jobs, my career, my reputation has been based on things that I learned by accident, not by what I learned in a master's. So,
Will you tell me the secret recipe for Heritage Lemonade?
well, I know it's been what, 22 years. I tell you, okay, I'll tell you, but I have to kill you. Did I give you the rock, Arra?
You did.
Wait a minute.
You. Dr. James, thank you very much for your time, your tale, your candor, your honesty, and I hope that you find the wisdom that he found. Please like, subscribe, ring hit the bell for notifications, and
Thank
till
you
next
so
time.
much.
Thank you.
You're a rock star. Thanks, man.